Hello, I am Megan and I'm the founder of Hip Stitch Academy. And today I'm talking with Susan Goldie, who is the owner of Sew Now in Lafayette, California.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
right? Okay, awesome. Susan, can you tell us, looks like you're in your studio, which is amazing. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm super excited to kind of get connected with the community, and I think it's really wonderful that Megan has taken this on. So hopefully we can all kind of find some kindred spirits out there and share some ideas.
Yes.
So Now is a local business, like I'm sure many of you have, and it just was kind of born out of my passion for design and sewing, and it was time for me to kind of go back to work. My kids were in school, and I had this idea to just kind of start a small part-time business. Haha, haha. So it's kind of mushroomed. That was about 11 years ago. And it's just been my great pleasure and joy to facilitate hundreds and hundreds of kids learning how to sew and kind of bringing back, I just feel like it's such a core kind of life skill. And if we're not careful in the Western world, we're going to lose it. Like just the fact that many of us wouldn't know where to start to sew on a Boy Scout patch or a button. That's just kind of the little kernel of the life skill part of it. But then for me, I love making clothes and have a fashion design background. So it's been really wonderful to kind of work with people to allow them to create their own unique fashion.
Yeah, I noticed in your bio or your about page on your website, I love that you were immediately talking about, this is something that our generation kind of skipped and people are not doing it. And you mentioned that now too. So I really appreciate that because you're right. It's like, it's fascinating to go into like a sewing class and talk about where did your shirt come from? And I teach a lot of like real little kids and I definitely get into that right away. It's like, they don't just magically appear in the store, and then they're like, wait, someone sewed this?
Yeah.
And they're like blown away by it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you get this a lot, but the kids will come in and we have kind of inspirational samples or samples we've made up from our patterns, and they'll be like, oh, who made that? So it's always fun for them to know which staff member made it. And then ultimately we're always saying, but like everybody made everything that you're wearing. Like so far, I don't think there's a robot that can put together a pair of jeans or a shirt all by itself. So I love that kind of connection to something you need every day. Like,
yes, every single day. Yes. And even just like looking around the room, it's like not even just clothing. They're just fascinated that, a book has sewing in it and
for sure.
Everything. So yay for us for teaching.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Lafayette, California. Where in the world is that?
So we are pretty much in the Bay Area of San Francisco. So if there's no rush hour, it's about a half hour to San Francisco. But we're sort of a small semi-rural community. We have about 30,000 people in our city. So we're really blessed to have a vibrant commitment to creativity and kind of the arts within the community, because it's sadly disappearing from school. Like any kind of, I feel like so many areas where they used to have hands-on learning is kind of been pushed aside with a focus on milestones and testing. And I don't know about you, but like to see a child or a teen like really grasp in a hands-on way that fractions are, they're so integral to sewing and just the seam allowance. And I'm not actually sure who came up with the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Like, I don't know where the heck that came from, but just the learning that comes and the geometry foundational understanding that comes from sewing and taking the 2D to the 3D, which is what I find so fascinating. It's really great to also not just see the kids get that, but then to see their parents kind of realize, oh, wow, this is not just like some frivolous thing that we're doing. This is really learning at a deep core level. So that's super important to me.
Yes. And it's more than just like, their kid is going to be a fashion designer one day.
Right. Right.
It's it's learning how to make something. It's engineering, it's architecture, it's even just like problem solving, you know?
Yeah.
It's like so many skills that sewing can teach you beyond just learning how
Yeah.
to design a, you know, dress. So yeah, I love that.
And sometimes we learn like it's easy to draw the dress, but then what's required to execute the dress may be a little bit more complicated. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting process. But I'd be curious to know also if other sewing studio owners have kind of used that in their advertising for kids and teens programming, and if that's been successful for them. Because certainly for us, when we kind of promote, particularly at our end of summer fashion show, which is one of the few times where we'll have the dads in the room. So you kind of have both parents there. And I don't know, I find that business-wise, it's really interesting when you point that out and you talk to parents about it. It kind of puts a little light bulb above their heads, and
That's
it's
so
good for us.
smart.
Yeah.
So smart. For, you know, for me, because we're so close to New York,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of the older students because I let them know, like, go to FIT. They have a great
Yeah.
program. They have a great Saturday program. Like, that's not my specialty. So I tend to have them a little bit younger, and then they kind of peter off about 8th or ninth grade.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I love that you're, you know, you're doing that. And then they see the benefit as they get older. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the dads, because it almost is like you have to like show them. It's not just like banging it up and making hair accessories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. There's not too much glitter getting glued around here.
yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so
But
funny.
I would say like that is our core demographic as well, is kind of, you know, we do have a juniors program for second and third graders. And then we have our core programming as kind of fourth grade and up. And most of our students are like tweens and teens.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things we did like about 3 years ago, I was kind of like you'd teach these people to sew and then we'd kind of lose them because we didn't really have any content for them. And for those that wanted to make clothes, it was really problematic because we've never taught from commercial patterns here, just because, you know, and I wouldn't say like there's a lot of indie pattern companies that I think have some really great content and instructions, which I have not explored, but we'd have people go to Joann's and bring back these patterns that, you know, just for us as an instructor to like read through and understand how the garment was being put together. And then I was kind of tearing my hair out because my background is in fashion design. So like the production way of sewing things is often so much more efficient.
Yeah.
So we came up with this fashion kit patterns concept, and that's really been great for our business because we now have a library of patterns and we have the instructions digitally. So you can watch them on your iPhone or your iPad. And what it's meant for our business is that we can actually make the class size bigger. So once those foundation skills have been learned, then you can join our fashion club. So it's a lot more like a gym membership. It's a little more.
So they're coming in and just kind of working.
Yeah, so it's like less structured. So there's no makeups required, which is kind of like the bane of my existence in our structured programming. Like makeups are just a nightmare.
Okay. There's so many questions based on that, but right now, what I was just thinking, do people do the fashion club? I feel like anytime I have a class where it's like there's not something specific, everyone thinks it's a great idea, and then they're like, and then they don't, like they'll come a little bit and then maybe not show up. There's not as much accountability, I think. I don't know. I'd be curious how you make that work, because I've done it for that age group, and I've also done it for adults, and it feels like if they're not like, I'm committed for the next 8 weeks and I've paid X number of dollars, it's really easy to be like, well, I'm not going to go, you know?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll just share with you, I have not been at all successful with adult programming. I mean, we advertised it for probably 8 years. And we did, you know, we populated some of the classes, but then moms are super busy and we're not in a big city environment. So, you know, moms are super busy, and I don't know, like it just became, the classes were full, sort of, but not really. Then people wouldn't come. So we just finally decided, you know what, this is not our wheelhouse.
Yeah, no,
and also it meant we had to keep our studio open a lot more hours and staff a lot more hours. So it wasn't lucrative at all. So we just, I wish it was.
Yeah.
But for us, we didn't seem to have the magic key to make that work.
No, I get it. It's funny because moms will be like, yeah, have a baby clothes like workshop. I'm like, that would never work in a million years. Moms are not signing up for sewing. We have a population where you come and live here kind of after college. So there's a lot of
that's cool.
Some things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get that. And maybe some, moms that have older kids or, and they're not so much mothering, but yeah, it's like these moms that are like into their kids, like they don't come to sewing class.
No, they go to the gym, but they don't go to sewing. At least that's been my experience. So for that, like, total strikeout with us. But I think the Fashion Club has worked because our biggest product is summer camp. We do 10 weeks of summer camp every summer, and we pretty much, knock on wood, we're so grateful, we pretty much fill to capacity every week. So in the fashion kit camp, you kind of get access to the whole fashion kit library, and we have so many inspirational samples around and photography, and we have a big, I don't know if I can move my computer over there, but we have like just a big poster with all the styles, and they're defined by skill level as well as what they are. So, tops, bottoms, dresses, accessories. And so we do help them like pick out projects in Fashion Club, and 9 times out of 10 so you sign up for like 4 weeks, or if you do bundle of 12, you save some money there. But then we also typically will have parents purchase a gift certificate for the pro shop. And what's great about that is the kids really learn about budgeting and managing their money, because they'll have X amount, maybe $50 on their gift card, and their parents will say, okay, this needs to last you for the 12 weeks or whatever they've worked out. And typically we'll have them buy their initial pattern set ahead of time, so that's kind of out of the way. Okay. So that's worked out okay for us. I mean, it's nice. We are just like 6-minute walk from our middle school. Nice. And then we're like 10-minute walk from our one elementary, and then we're very central, so drop off from other schools is pretty easy for people. So what we found is that the middle schoolers, some families are using it also instead of after school care or having to have someone else at the house, because the girls are not, they're old enough to be on their own, but it's a lot of unsupervised time. So this is a nice safe haven. We're blocked from our library. Yeah. So yeah, it's been good for us.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So you were saying like, limiting the amount of hours that you're open. So you're not like a fabric store. You are strictly sewing studio.
Now we are. When I first opened, I had this we had a much bigger retail space, and I had this dream, like I was gonna enjoy the retail aspect and have all these cool fabrics and notions. And we were a brother sewing machine dealer as well. I did not care for that part of my business. So that, combined with the hours and the cost of that, just led me to kind of just pull in and focus on teaching and things that supported teaching. So we do still sell sewing machines, but I have a relationship with an authorized brother dealer, and that's working really well for us, because just the time it took to be a dealer, like a lot of calls to field, and then you do have to be open, Sundays and evenings and all of that. So our pro shop has a selection of seasonal fabrics. Most of them, we have a good chunk of quilting cottons for a lot of the learning to sew projects, and our younger girls gift classes and little dresses and things like that. But then the core of our fabric selection is for garment making. So we have I don't know, we probably have like 25 maybe different fabrics in there. Half of them are knits, half are wovens. And most people in the fashion club purchase from our shop, but sometimes they'll bring in fabric they have or that they've bought on a trip, or it's fun to go to another store sometimes. And I've just kind of realized there's no way I can stock, like I'm never going to be Joann's. So, and that's fine, you know?
Yeah, totally. No, I like the way you think, because it's hard when, you know, you're doing this and you're doing all, I mean, for me, I'm doing all ages and I'm offering this and that and this. And then if, you know, I sat down with the accountant at one point and she's like, okay, let's look at what you did. And she's like, you got to eliminate some of this stuff, you know. She had to tell me, it was like, okay, this part is not worth your time, you know. It's like, stop doing that. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, it's what makes sense. It's like, I've got to figure out what works and kind of let go of some of the other stuff.
I know, it's hard though, isn't it? Because you have this vision of how you want things. And I think the one thing that Fashion Kit Patterns also has taught me to do is to really let go of the perfection of the project for the student. Like, obviously we want to guide them to do the best they can do.
Yeah.
But you know what? The learning comes where the mistakes are. The learning doesn't come from the perfect execution of, we showed them X, they did X. Right. It comes from slicing open your project on the serger and finding the solution. You know?
God bless you. You teach those kids how to use sergers. Like, number one right there. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. Oh.
Well, we don't do it with our second and third graders. So we do introduce it at the end of our 101 program. And it's a very like controlled kind of situation. And then as they get more skills, we advocate the use of serger buddies. So we have them team up. So your serger buddy is kind of tasked with, you know, maybe getting you to slow down, maybe saying, oh, check underneath, you know, all those things. But yes, people do slice stuff open, and they usually only do it once.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a lot of technology here. So we have some wonderful embroidery equipment, and there's often an embroidery that gets put over top of a little boo-boo, or someone does an applique. It's like, sometimes it leads to a much more creative design than it would have been. So, but it's heartbreaking, you know, for the instructor, and the student sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends how much they care about that.
Okay, for the kit stuff, I had a question. Do you sell it to people that aren't participating in your fashion stuff?
Definitely. So,
right?
Well, we just started making it available online, and in the next month, we're kind of reconfiguring the concept a little bit to make it more flexible. So the original idea was every season we would release a kit of 5 key pieces that you would get in a box mailed to you.
Right.
But what we learned in the studio is that doesn't work so well, because you might want to choose yours according to what capsule collection you want to make that season, or what skill level you're sewing at. Right. So our new web design should be launched in a couple weeks from now, and that will allow people to cherry pick the patterns that they want. And it also comes with a great design guide. So it's got swatches and colors for the season. And it's really kind of, the swatches are like real little pieces of fabric. So it kind of gives students an idea of what fabrics are what. So a little bit of textile knowledge in there. And actually we've started working with a sewing studio in Alabama. So she kind of did, as a test run last year, implementing it into her classes, and that's been successful for her as well. So we're kind of looking at how can we share this with other studios, because for us it's actually enabled us to be more lucrative, because you can have a larger class size and you retain those students that would have otherwise been ready to move on to either sew at home or, you know, search for different programming elsewhere. So
okay. Wow. You're like really kind of taking it to the next level. And that's exciting to talk about. Cause it's funny, like as I talk to people, there are people that, they're sewing and they offer a couple classes and it's not, necessarily like, I mean, they're making money, I guess, but
Yeah.
you've really figured out how to scale it out. And I love that. Like that's, I think I love being an entrepreneur and I love
Yeah.
the challenge of, okay, this year, I did this and, had profits were this and sales were this. And it's like,
Yeah.
next year I want to do a little better. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the fun of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I don't care about the money. Like I make enough to get by and I'm never going to get rich doing this.
Yeah. Well, I don't think any of us.
No, we're not doing it to get rich. But at the same time, I think it's a really fun experience to figure out, hey, what else can I do to make, my business a little bit better? So I love that you're scaling it and that you're, figuring out what you can do. So yay.
I think it's also great as a role model for young women because
yes,
we have this opportunity. I don't know if you teach boys. We are, we're happy to have boys in the classroom. It's very rare. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I think as you get older, there's some.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what the message is, but it's there, and they're like looking around, going, "I don't know how I shouldn't be here."
Or even like the sibling that comes to pick up his sister. He's kind of like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a bummer. But I do think, like all of us as a collective group, we have this great opportunity to just share different ethnicities and the creativity that comes with that. And, all these kids in the room, they see you as an entrepreneur and they see you like getting out your drill to hang up something on the wall. And I think that's really great. Like I once had a little girl say to me, "Whoa, you're gonna put that cabinet together?" And I'm like, well, if I don't put it together, it's not gonna get put together. So I think we could all get our PhD in IKEA assembly, but I just think how great for kids to see us doing that and sweeping the floor and unclogging the toilet and whatever comes with the business all day. Exactly. I always try to remember, well, like even on the worst days possible, I try to remember like, this is real life, So.
What, well, here, one last thing about the kits. Are you designing all the patterns?
We do, yes. Yeah.
You have got help?
Well, I've helped. So I have help for everything. Good. So I have, I am a fashion designer, pattern maker by background. So when my business started, I literally made custom patterns for my whole dress class. Like I would draft a pattern for every student, which is maybe only 5 or 7 per season. But that, I look back on that, it was insane. Like I worked like every Saturday. It was just crazy. So it just made sense to develop this system which is made to be customized. So the patterns fit really well. They're nested, so you get every size on a sheet. So as an instructor, you can just pass out, here's your pattern sheet, help them figure out their size. So I'm really, really proud of that product.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't do the grading. So I have 2 people on staff typically that work with me more in the summer, but I'll usually hire people from design schools. So they also have like the pattern making or also the technical creative suite, like Illustrator kind of background to help with that. Right. So I could not do it by myself. It's too much work.
Yes. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, as I, want to scale my business a little bit, and it's
because you'd have both, like you have your Hip Stitch Academy and your studio as well. Yeah.
Right. But the Hip Stitch stuff, it's kids patterns. It's not garments. And so I only have the one beginner class that has some garments. And as I want to expand, I'm like, I'll do a knits class and we're using, patterns that I find online and changing them a little bit. but then it's like, how do I get from doing that to having my own? And I don't have the pattern making background.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Yeah.
like, whoa. And I'm forever testing and forever making sure, and it's always like 4 sizes, small,
Yeah.
medium, large,
Yeah.
and extra large. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the extent of my skills. Cause grading a pattern. It's like, oh man.
Oh my God, I hate grading. I hated it in fashion school. I still cannot imagine doing grading.
It is not easy. So I know what goes into it.
Well, I don't know if it would work for you, but I would invite you to explore our patterns because they are made to be customized. So like the gal in Alabama, I know her students would be like, well, I like this poppy dress, but I want it shorter and this and that. And so you can help them customize it, or you can customize it for whole class if that's something that is appealing.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely look into it. And that's the whole thing, too, is like that's how you make an interesting sewing class, is if they can be the designer, like giving them the tools to be able to change things up and make it their own. So yeah.
Cool.
Love it. Okay, so then talk to me a little bit about your helpers. Are they full-time employees, part-time employees?
Everyone's a part-time employee just because of the hours that, there's those sweet spot hours, which is like the more you can fill your studio during those after-school hours, that's where all our business comes from. So, so I'll usually, like right now, it's kind of quieter this fall session. It always feels quieter in fall because summer is so cranky all summer long.
I agree.
So they're like maybe 15 to 25 hours, 2 of them. And then I also have 2 high school studio assistants, and those are girls that have learned to sew with us and kind of moved up into that helper role. And right now they alternate Saturdays. I used to hire more teens, but I found that with their school schedule, it was just inevitable that when our crunch time came up, they'd have exams, or, their first priority can't be their part-time job. So I've had good success hiring like people just finishing up their fashion school or just graduated from fashion school, because it's actually a good count-onable job. So it matches well if they want to do some other fashion endeavors. And it's also good, like, because I can put them on some of the tasks for the fashion kit patterns, it also, it's kind of in their wheelhouse for a future job in fashion. And there are a lot of graduates coming out of fashion schools, and sadly, not really enough employment. So.
Okay. And I'm sure there
at least here, maybe it's different in New York because there's probably more industry there.
I think there is, that's kind of where it all is. But good for you, because they're probably learning so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like also it keeps our studio youthful.
Yeah.
Like there's something about that young 20 to 30 age that the teens and the girls really can connect with. I'm like the mom. So
as I get older, I'm like, am I going to be able to continue doing this?
You totally can.
Me, and I'm the old lady. I'm becoming the old lady. I used to be the cool lady.
You are not the old lady.
I
got you beat there, but.
Okay, so I guess I was going to ask you, since you're only, because we teach at like multiple locations, if you're teaching in your studio, well, in schools, because that's the direction that our area is going.
How do you get the machines there?
We've got machines everywhere.
And you just leave them there in place?
Yeah, I've got too many sewing machines.
No, that's good. I mean, I've been asked by schools and I've never done it because I couldn't sort out, like, am I going to send an instructor there with 5 machines? Like, how's that going to work?
And that's what we do. We keep the classes pretty small, and, we definitely. Like,
how small? Like 4 kids or?
8? No, 8 is the max.
Yeah.
And we'll have 3 or 4 sewing machines. We've always we're very, and they're younger. So it's like, have more than that can get a little scary. I don't know about you. I'd prefer, less sewing machines per kid. But then also we always have like a hand sewing project that, like, if you're waiting and you're
can rotate out.
Yeah, totally. So that's the way we've sort of managed it. And because
good for you. I've
Well,
never been able to sort out how to do that.
but the schools want it so bad in
It's
this
so
area.
great.
Like I can fill a class at a school so much quicker than I
Yeah,
can at my studio, because then they don't have to, and you know, they
they're
don't have
already there.
school to my studio. And
Yeah,
so with the younger kids, the moms at work, moms and
yeah,
dads
yeah,
at work.
yeah.
So anyway,
So
that's
that's interesting. So you're part of their after school program.
yeah.
And do you, Megan, physically go there, or do you have other instructors that help
So,
you?
yeah, I have
Yeah.
a set schedule and but that's the whole thing, because our window of teaching opportunity is so small.
Right.
My studio, you know, we can only hold so many. So by being in these other locations,
Yeah,
it
it's
transformed my business.
super smart. That
Yeah.
is super smart. I think that's really brilliant.
I don't even know if it was really me intending it. It was just sort of what happened.
Sometimes the universe provides, you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, how big is your studio and how many kids can you have in there?
So it's about 900 square feet.
Okay, so that's pretty
And
big.
it's pretty big. So we have two 4 by 8 foot cutting tables, and then we have two sewing zones, if you will. So there's 6 or 7 machines on those each sewing table.
Yep.
And then we have some satellite areas, like we have a desk with embroidery machines, so the kids that are trained in that can do that. And then we have our kind of pro shop area. But in the summer, it's cranked. It's like so crammed. It's like we really could use more space, but the business wouldn't support it. Like,
you're only doing it for 10 weeks. That's my view. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been trying to figure out, because I believe that there's even more camp business to be had in the Bay Area, but I'd have to sort out the whole pop-up real estate thing. I don't know how. I don't know anything about that, but I think it could be done.
Figure it out. You let me know, because
Yeah.
I've thought about it too. And that's another thing that my accountant, she's like, look at this business that you're doing in 10 weeks over the summer.
In the summer, right?
How do you build on that? Because if that's full, then you know you could do more.
Yes.
But when you sit down and think about the logistics of getting another location, it's not just one more person. You've got to have at least 2. You've got to, you know, figure out the temporary space. I don't know. It just became more than I wanted to think about to have another location.
I mean, I believe it could totally, sorry, my phone's ringing. That could totally be done. But my issue was, that's the time when my kids, like my boys are older now. They're like, one's about to go to college and one's in college. So summer is like, I don't want to work that hard in the summer anymore.
That's the other thing.
So there's not enough. I looked at the numbers and I'm like, well, it can't really support, like you'd need a camp director, I think, to run the whole thing and be like shuttling around to all the camps. And I'm like, I don't know what the liability insurance would look like on that thing either.
Oh, that's true too. But you're right. It's like that work-life balance. It's like, how many hours can you really just put into it? Oh, I'd love to make it so big and so great, but I'm like, I also just want to have a life. So
exactly. Totally get that.
Aww. So what are the things that kind of keep you inspired? You know, do you look at fashion magazines? Like, what are the things?
You know, we used to have a lot of fashion magazines. We used to subscribe to Women's Wear Daily, and we had all the magazines around. And then I was like, this is just a lot of paper.
Yeah.
There's so much content online, I feel like. So I scrapped all those subscriptions. And yeah, we go to the LA Textile Show twice a year. So that's a really fun industry event, but they do a huge trends gallery with fabric swatches, and they do presentations by some of the top trends predictive companies. And they have a lot of, like, it's really for design companies that are marketing clothes, but it's a great fit for us because it keeps us kind of on the edge of what's happening and what's fun. And we get a lot of fabric ideas, like even things you can really simplify down and just like, oh, okay, we have basic fabrics, but you can add a little embroidery to that and make it spectacular, or things like that. So I think going down there a couple times a year is super inspiring. And that's just close by. I mean, it's like not as close as you are to New York probably, but it's, you know, it's a $40 flight and it's not
nice,
cost prohibitive. And then I think just, I love making stuff. And I love, like, I kind of got away from teaching because I was really entrenched with the fashion kit business. And then we had a little bit of a staff turnover this fall. And so I found myself teaching again. And I thought, okay, this is why we do what we do. So
funny. Like, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I'll
really,
get away from it.
Yeah.
Because I don't have enough instructors. I'm like, okay, I'm teaching it. And it's like, oh yeah, that's, you know, it's like, this is why I do it.
And that really surprised me, because I went into it kind of cranky, like, oh, I really don't want to. And it was a mixed age quilting class. And I was like, oh, like I really like teaching the older girls, because I love when you can say, go do this, and they can just go do that. But I had these 3 sweet little, like, 3rd graders, and I don't know, it just was a really great experience. And it kind of brought me back to my roots. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some more teaching.
It's important to get back to it every once in a while. When you've been doing it for this long, it's so easy to be like, okay, it's all hired out. I've got these great instructors, but then you forget what you're doing it for.
Yeah. And also it's a good example for your instructors when you teach, because I've had, like, instructors train my instructors for a few years now. And, like, some of those little nuggets that you come up with, they get lost down the pipe somehow. So that's kind of good, I think. And we all share ideas. I mean, I love when an instructor will just define something in a sentence, and you just sit there and be like, oh, that was really great how you said that. And just, so I think it's inspiring to be on a team where everybody's really kind of playing full out. Fun.
Great. Oh, it sounds like you've got so much going on there, and, like, it's so fashion focused that would be so exciting for the older kids. Like, I definitely just don't have a handle on that, and I think that's definitely why I lose them. So good for you. Like, they must feel like so cool, you know, because they're going and you're so fashion forward. So yay for
I love that part of it. I do.
Yeah. Good. Oh, awesome. Well, it's been so good talking to you.
Thank you so much.
I hope that you'll join us for some monthly chats, because they're really fun. And I think that you've got, you know, some of the owners that I've talked to, I think you have a different perspective, and you know, and then maybe you can learn more about maybe how to get the adult. I don't know. Anyway,
definitely. I'm definitely interested in that. Okay. So how do is that we can email later? Is that just through your website I do that?
Yeah, it's on the website. It's monthly, and I try to rotate the days to try and, you know, make it accessible to everybody. So yay.
Awesome. Great. Well, just thank you so much for this, and thanks for connecting us all. I really, really appreciate that.
Awesome. I'm glad you like it. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye.